All right, what's up, guys? Team X3 here again with another YouTube deck profile. Bringing for you guys today Madolches, as you can see. So I just wanted, before I go into the video, I do want to make the quick point that any deck profile I ever bring is one that I'm actually playing. I don't build decks just to make YouTube content. I'm not getting paid from this anyway. So I actually test these decks, and they're what I'm actually playing myself, what I'm actually taking to locals or playing online, whatever. And they've been tested a lot. And so this is not just something I threw together to say I have a Madolche deck profile. But yeah, I've been playing this deck, and this deck is very much the kind of deck I like to play, very high in power, but it's not one that's, meta. I personally don't like to play meta because I don't like losing to, floodgates in the side deck, things like that. But that's besides the point. So the thing about this deck is it's very powerful. It can do a lot of really cool combos. It can push for game very hard. It can OTK going second. It can set up a very strong board going first. It's very versatile, but it's very much a glass cannon. It is a combo deck, but it has some very important choke points that the opponent can exploit. It's not like a Dragon Link deck or some of the more modern decks that can kind of freestyle around hand traps or through hand traps, that have a very fluid custom combo capability. This deck kind of has to do more or less the same combo every single time to get its full board. So it can a few hand traps will really stop it. Unfortunately, that's just the way Yu-Gi-Oh is. Sometimes they just have the hand trap and you just don't have the out, or you don't have the extension to play through it, and you're stuck dead. That being said, I've built the deck in such a way that tries to mitigate that as much as possible, and allows you to continue to play the game even if that's the case, but still built to avoid that as much as possible. So that being said, I have some personal tech choices. I have built this a way that maybe a lot of other Madolche decks may not play it. I've strayed a little bit away from quote unquote what is standard, and I'm going to take you guys through those thought processes as I lay out the deck profile. That being said, let's get into it. As you can see, we played the single copy of Madolche Pudding Sis. This card its effect really doesn't matter. It's just a name so much that you really want to put up under Chakala mode. Its effect does come up sometimes. If your opponent does battle into this, then you can resolve its effect to pop a card. So it's not bad, but yeah, it's just basically a name. And the 3 Petting Sister. So this is like your main starter. You want to get to this, whether it just be raw in your hand, or you want to get to it off of a Madolche or an Angeli. But basically, if this monster is special summoned by any card effect, then you can special summon one Madolche monster from your hand or deck and reduces level by 1. So it's basically your way to summon Pudding Sis out and make it a level 4, so that you can use this and this to make a rank 4. So this is like your main card you want to get to pretty much every turn to get your Pudding Sis to continue your plays and really push a strong board. Also, if you have no monsters in your graveyard, you can reveal this from your hand to special summon it, thus triggering its second special summon effect. So going forward, it's really important to keep in mind the idea that you want to keep monsters out of your graveyard. That's an important aspect of this deck. Then we play Triple Angeli, which is basically another copy of Petting Sister going first, or it's an extender any other turn to get anything. Obviously a very strong card. Well, something a lot of people don't know, or just ignore rather, is that if you summon a card off of this, it can't be destroyed by battle until like at all, and then it's shuffled in after your next turn. So if you summon anything off of this and just put it in defense, it's just going to stick on the board, so they have to remove it, and they can't kill you through battle. So that's pretty nice. Then we play Triple Madolche. Now this is all standard. None of this is fancy. However, I will say this: I think Madolche actually might be the best starter in the deck. Because it baits Ash like all the time. It can search itself on normal summon. It's not once per turn. So like this paired with Salon gives you 2 normal summons and 2 searches. So you can extra normal summon this with Salon, search a second copy, normal summon the second copy, search Petting Sister, overlay into one of your Xyz, and then go off. It's an incredible card. It typically baits Ash and permanences, things like that. But no, it's a very good starter. It actually might be the best in my opinion. Then we play 2 Hoot Cake, just an extender. 2 in case you draw 1. And then we play 2 Madolche Gelato. Now, this card, like, it sucks to draw this card because you actually need to have both in your deck to resolve your full first turn combo. There's a few ways to play around that to mitigate that. One would be if you open this and a Petting Sister, because you can special summon this without using up your normal summon. You can special this, resolve its effect to special summon a Pudding Sis from deck, normal summon the Messenger Gelato, overlay the Messenger Gelato and Pudding Sis, go into Teacher, and then detach this from Teacher, then go into Chalk Island mode and shuffle this back with Chalk Island mode. So it's still in deck, so you can still go full combo. Another way to mitigate that is if you have Salon, then you can normal summon any of your starter cards and this, and then do that same thing I just said. Additionally, if you open one of these and you open any other Madolche spell or trap to open up the game, then you can still go more or less full combo and search your other pieces with the one Messenger Lotto you do have in deck. So you don't want to draw it, but there are some situations where it's not, game ending for you. And that's all the monsters we play. 14 monsters, 14 Madolche names, or 14 Madolche monsters. We do not play any hand traps, no Ash, no Ghost Ogre, no anything like that. Because again, we don't want any monsters in the graveyard to turn off our Petting Sis or Magdalene as starters. Then for the spells, we play the 1 Chateau and the 1 Ticket. This is more so of a combo card than it is anything else, and this is a hard once per turn, so I feel like there's really no reason to play more than one of each. Plus, they can be, if they get destroyed or removed, you can shuffle them back from the graveyard very easily with your Madolche monster, so it's really no sweat. Then we play Triple Salon. This card is really good. This card lets you basically have a double summon, and that's obviously important for comboing off. Also, every time something is shuffled back from your field or grave to your hand or deck, a Madolche monster is shuffled from your field or grave in your hand or deck, then this card will trigger unless you set a Madolche spell or trap from your deck, which basically lets you recycle Promenade over and over. Or if you're going first, you can set one of these as well. So this card is very important. It lets you do the Magdalene play I explained earlier, where you are able to overlay into Auriflesia for protection for your first turn combo. Then we play Triple Pot of Prosperity. So this deck actually, this deck actually is more or less not as viable in my opinion without this card, because you basically only have 9 starters, that being 3 Petting Sister, 3 Jelly, 3 Magdalene. And this basically gives you 3 extra copies of cards that give you a chance to dig 6 card deeper in your deck to get those starters. Having a 9 card starter is not bad per se, but your chances of seeing it are not going to be as consistent as you like. Probably not enough on those 9 cards alone to win the tournament. So having those 3 extra chances to dig for the cards you want is really, really important. And even if you open up your starters, just having this to dig for any pieces you may want, which may include maybe a Call by the Grave, or if you're going second, some removal card, things like that. Just other parts of the piece, or maybe you have a Magdalene, you want like you want to be able to get to your Salon, then just having this to be able to get whatever piece you want is really, really important for this deck. Plus you have the extra deck to spare, so it's really good, I think, in this deck. Then we play 2 Triple Tactics Talent. I feel like 2 is probably the appropriate number. This is such a good card that maybe you'd want to max out on it, but it is a hard once per turn. You never want to, if you use the draw effect to draw into a second copy, it does kind of conflict with Prosperity. You can resolve both if you, in the same turn, if you use the Change of Heart or Forceful Sentry effect, but I feel like it's probably best when you're drawing cards. Anyway, still a very good card. It discourages hand traps, especially if you get this off of Prosperity. It might discourage your opponent from using a hand trap. But yeah, it's just basically a way for this deck to play through hand traps, because again, this deck has very fragile combos. Sometimes there's very tight choke points that if they ash you or impermanence you, Nibiru you in a certain spot, your turn is very disrupted. So being able to have this just to play around those hand traps is very important. Then we play 1 Instant Fusion and 1 Call by the Grave. These are both basically just, again, more ways to play through hand traps. This will summon Millennium Eyes Restrict, allowing you to play through, Ash Blossom, Troll, things like that. But also, like, going second, if you summon Millennium Eyes Restrict, it'll let you, like, play through your opponent's built-up monster board a little bit easier. And this is the same. Everybody knows what this does. So yeah, these are the cards that I kind of put in the, like, engine/playthrough things category. And then I've got more spells coming up. So like I said earlier, sometimes, your combo will just get stopped. They will have the hand trap and you just don't have the out for it. And that's just the way it is. But but you still want to be able to like play the game. So my theory is the rest of the cards in my deck are essentially like cards that if I'm going first, I can set and then still disrupt my opponent's plays enough to where I can continue my plays on the following turn and still come out with a W if all things go according to plan. So, but I also want cards that, like, if I lose a die roll and I go second, then I can play through boards very, very well. And that's kind of what I've got, in mind here. So we play 3 copies of Droplet. Obviously, a very good card going first or second, lets you play through established boards. And if you send in any monsters, then they can't negate this card with their monster effects. It baits out a lot of things. It deletes attacks, so you can punch over with your smaller attack monsters. Obviously, a very good card, very good trap as an effect negation, and I feel like it's very good going first or second, which is another reason why I want to play it. And then we play a very interesting tech choice, I think, 3 Book of Moon. So this card actually has really cool applications that a lot of people probably wouldn't think to use. I mean, it's obviously a very good card, like going second, so you can Book of Moon, a threatening opponent's monster, or going first as as a trap. You can Book of Moon one of their monsters and part of their key plays. Book of Mooning Alistair is very good because they can't link off with it. They can't, like they just can't continue their plays, things like that. But also, if you have, let's say you're going first and you normal summon a Madolche and this gets impermanence or something like that, you can chain Book of Moon to target your own Madolche and set it, and now all of a sudden it's no longer face up, so impermanence can't target negate it, and so you still get to resolve your search, and then whenever you flip this up the following turn, if it sticks, you get another search off of it because it's flipped or normal summoned when this card is triggered its effect to search. Also, if you can chain this to your own monster and it won't be tributed by Nibiru because Nibiru only tributes face-up monsters. So it's got a lot of niche interactions, but like this card is very, very good. I think very good going first or second, very versatile. Then we play triple Cosmic Cyclone, just because back row is a thing. Eldritch is a deck. There's a lot of decks, and it doesn't hurt to just have this in the main. Again, going first or second, very good card. And that wraps it up for the remainder of these spells. And for the traps, the rest of the cards that let you play should you get hand trapped. 1 Promenade. This card is really good. This card is like everything you want in a trap, in my opinion. Like most decks probably want a trap like this, which is it just targets a card your opponent controls and blanks it. It doesn't have to target. It doesn't have to respond to the activation. You can just flip it up and omni-negate anything. Monster, spells, trap, doesn't matter. You just target a card, negate its effects, return. It also lets you return Madolche monsters from your field or grave to your hand. So if you're a little behind, you can add, a Madolche or Angeli from your grave to your hand. But then it'll also, after you resolve that effect, it will trigger your tickets, your salon, etc., and get you even further value off of that. And then like the way the deck works is you can like loop this card every single turn with your Queen Tiramisu. So it's just an intensely good card in this deck. It actually messes with your opponent. It also helps your own strategy, and it's loopable. So just like a really good trap card. Then we play Triple Impermanence. Again, this is in falling with the idea that we want to play cards that are good going first or second. So because we never know if we're going to win the die roll or not. And obviously this is a very good card in that regard. Also, as far as hand traps go, this is just a personal decision. I don't like to play hand traps that are only good if I see them in my first hand. For instance, if I lose a die roll and I'm going second and I'm main decking Ash Blossom and I don't see it in my first 5, but I draw it as my 6th card, then not only is it worthless at that point, but my hand didn't get any better to deal with the board my opponent established as a result of that card I drew for turn. So I don't like playing cards like that. However, Impermanence does not fit in that category. If I go second and I top deck this as my draw for turn card, then it actually does help me play against an established board. So I very much appreciate this card. Plus, again, like I said, it's good going first or second, which is the kind of optics I'm looking for in terms of building this deck. And then finally, to round out the 40th card, we play Gravedigger Trap Hole. If you've seen any Madolche deck profile before, you know how this works. You basically, again, like I said earlier, you go Madolche Salon plus 2 Magellans will let you search your petting successor, and then you overlay for Rafflesia, and then now Rafflesia can send this in response to an Ash Blossom, Drolin Lock, Nibiru, things like that. Any monster hand trap, you can obviously chain this to it and play through it, which is really good for your combo. And that's it for the main deck. Now let's go to the extra deck. So the extra deck is, again, basically a lot of it is basically just prosperity fodder. There's a few cards that you play every single game, the few Madolche monsters, but a majority of the extra deck is prosperity fodder. And instead of just playing like 3 copies of every Madolche extra deck monster and a few other cards, I figured that since most is just prosperity fodder anyway, might as well make those names that are just going to be blanked by prosperity fodder be, you know, cards, tech cards, toolbox cards that can come up in certain situations in case you have not resolved a prosperity, thus expanding your ability to play out of certain situations. So that being said, we play 1 Link Rebo. This is literally just for dinos, just a way to, if they give you the token and you can't target things, that's going to stop your first combo, because for your first combo to go through, you have to be able to target one of your Madolche monsters with Teacher Glass Souffle's effect. So this will let you, just having this here to play through dino crap is very important in my opinion. And then we play 1 Alsa, the Earth Charmer, or Alsa, however you pronounce it, I don't know, I don't care. This is basically here in case you draw like a bad hand. If you have like a Madolche Salon, but you have like, you know, 2 Messengelato, or, you know, like a Hoot Cake Messengelato, double Hoot Cake, something like that, you can give like Link off into this, and then guarantee when this dies to search for like an Angeli, something like that. Also, if you resolve a triple tactics talent and you have your opponent's monster that you want to get rid of, then you can link off, you know, like a Magdalene and that, whatever that monster is, into like this, something like that. It's just the name. It's just something that can come up. Again, most of this is just prosperity fodder anyway. Just might as well have cards that are useful in certain situations if they're going to be prosperity fodder anyway. Then we play 2 Sistart. So the first time I read this card, like, this card is just an intensely obnoxious card. Admittedly, this card is very annoying because it protects all of your engine cards, and then it also protects itself. So it's very difficult for your opponent to deal with. So instead of being able to, like, if you're playing as Madolche, the thing you want to do to win is just destroy all of our face-up spell cards, our Chateau, Salon, and Ticket, which are the cards that continuously give us advantage. But this prevents that. And then also, the thing about it is, if this card would be destroyed at all, then you can protect it by shuffling in Madolche monsters from your graveyard into your hand or deck. So if this points to like a teacher, and like the teacher can quick effect, use its own effect to protect this, and then it protects itself. It's just a very obnoxious card to deal with, but it's very good for you because it keeps your engine alive and allows you to continually keep that advantage up over your opponent by protecting your spell cards. Then we play 1 Restrict. Again, noted earlier, this is just an instant fusion target, so you can play through hand traps or, you know, play through an established board going second. We play 1 Omega. So there's actually no way for you to summon this in this build, as you saw earlier from the main deck. This is only here because Dogmatica Maximus is a card, and if your opponent, you know, resolves Maximus against you and forces you to send monsters from your extra deck to your graveyard, then it makes your Prosperity a much worse card. And also, it turns off your Petting Cessor and Magdalene as starters because you no longer can resolve it because you have monsters in your graveyard. So playing the 1 Omega in the extra deck is very important because then you can just put it and whatever else you sent off of Maximus back to your extra deck, so that your Pot of Prosperity is live and your Petting Cessor and your Magdalene are live as starters. So once, you know, Maximus is no longer a relevant card, then this will definitely come out. But yeah, so another tech I wanted to play is 1 Kieran Gorgon. So like I've told you earlier about the Rafflesia combo, or rather Magdalene plus Salon is Rafflesia plus starter, and that's really good to play around hand traps. But if you're going second and you suspect your opponent has like a set impermanence or a set Dogmatic punishment or anything that's going to disrupt your plays by targeting, then like playing this is obviously, you know, I think a better move than Rafflesia in those situations because you can just protect your board from targeting. Also, this can attack over Winda, which is very important. So again, Magdalene plus Salon allows you to make this attack over Winda and then go off with your Petting Scissor. This also happens to attack over Unicorn should you come up against a Necros deck, which is far more rare than the Winda that you'll see in the Dogmatica Invoked Shadal deck that's very popular. But I feel like this has a lot of applications. A very good tech. Your opponent's not, you know, expecting this obviously, but yeah, just let you play around targeting in general. Then we play the Rafflesia, like I said earlier. So again, just let you play through hand traps. And then we actually get into the Madolche monsters. We play 3 Teacher Glass Souffle. So this card is like kind of like the lifeline of your deck. It's like the kind of card you want to summon just generically. This card is so good First of all, she has a very fat ass, so she's very good defensively. She has 2,500 and then 3,000 if you have Chateau up. Also, she has a quick effect where she can target one of your Madolche monsters and is unaffected by monster effects this turn except for its own. So it protects your board, protects your Sistart, things like that. It can protect your other cards from like Ash if you're going through like, combo, things like that. But also it can trigger with its first effect, that is a quick effect, its second effect, which is that if a Madolche card leaves your field and goes to the graveyard, then you can shuffle cards from the graveyards into the deck. Up to 2 cards from the graveyards into the deck. And it could be your graveyard, your opponent's graveyard. It does not target, so it lets you trigger your Ticket and Salon if you shuffle back a Madolche card. Also, you can disrupt your opponent's plays if they're a graveyard-based deck. If they're playing Eldritch, Phantom Knights, things like that, you can disrupt their plays. And like it's just a very good card, and like it lets you shuffle back like all of your stuff. Also, another cool interaction is like if you go full combo turn 1 and you have like Rafflesia and Glass Souffle up, and like let's say you've resolved Rafflesia and sent Gravedigger Trap Hole to the graveyard to play through a hand trap, Glass Souffle will let you shuffle this back into the deck so that your Rafflesia has another trigger of its effect to play against another hand trap or graveyard effect your opponent might try to resolve. So just a really cool interaction that's very unique to this deck. But again, this lets you just shuffle back all your stuff and like play a grind game. Then we play 2 Tiramisu. This card is just really insane. The fact that it does not target, it is not once per turn. It's not a hard once per turn, so you can summon 2 and resolve both, shuffle back 4 cards in one turn. This card is just intensely good, and I think that 2 is probably appropriate. Like, you don't need to play 3, in my opinion, because again, the whole thing about Madolche, like their whole thing is they just shuffle things back into the deck. So like this can just recycle these can recycle this. It's just, I feel like 2 is appropriate. If you summon 2 in the same turn, like if you're going second, or if you went first and you messed up your opponent and now it's turn 3 after you went first, like you just summon both and just shuffle all their stuff back and kill them. You don't ever need more than 2 because you're only summoning 2 in one turn, and if you resolve 2 in a turn, you're winning. I don't see how you can lose that. And then like if you quote unquote run out, you just shuffle them back. So 2 I think is definitely appropriate. And that being said, we play 1 Chalk Ala Mode. This is just a combo card. I've seen a few deck profiles of this deck where they'll play like multiples of this. I don't think that's correct. This is just a combo card. If you can put Pudding Sis under it, then it'll basically give you like 1 or 2 free special summons based on how you play your turn. But it's just a combo card. It doesn't really push like the board in any kind of way or disrupt your opponent. So just the 1 is fine, especially after your first combo. You're going to end by putting this back into your extra deck anyway, so like you can reuse it. You don't need the second. And again, if it were to die, something like that prematurely, then you can just shuffle it back with all your other Madolche XCs. So it's definitely, I think, correct at 1. And then we play 1 Zeus finally. Like in reality, I've never summoned this in this deck, but it does technically have the application to where you can summon it, perhaps over a Rafflesia or Karen Gorgon. Or if you're going second and you have like 2 normal summons, like a Petting Cessor and a normal summon, let's say they eat a hand trap, then you can go like overlay into Teacher, overlay into Chalk Ala Mode, and then lay this on top, and it's got 4 material. So it's not likely to come up, but it's just something that might come up. It's basically just a prosperity target that has some utility otherwise, which is, my goal, my aim for making this extra deck. And that's the 15 from the extra deck. Now to the side deck. Again, following the same theme here, I don't have monster hand traps. I just have, cards that are good for going first or second. So if I go second, I'm playing against a monster heavy board, a monster heavy deck. I have a Regeki and 3 Dark Rule No More to, deal with Dragon Link boards, things like that. Then I also have 1 Feather Duster and triple MST for back row heavy decks. So the thing about like MST is an oldie, but it's definitely still a goodie because, again, if you're playing against Invoke Dogmatica and you reveal Petting Cessor, they will just chain the Schism and then summon the Winda, and then Petting Cessor will resolve, but won't be able to special summon from the deck, and your turn is kind of just like over. So you need something that can like actually chain to the Schism to quote unquote negate it. So in this case, MST actually does negate. You just need to chain it to the Schism. This cannot chain to the Schism. You can preemptively activate it, but they can just chain the Schism and then get the Winda. Anyway, so you still have to kind of like play around it. If you have like a Book of Moon or Impermanence, you can play around the Winda in that case. But then you need like this and something else to play around it. Whereas this will just let you go ahead and chain it to the Schism and, prevent the Winda from ever coming out at all. And then you can still play through your turn. So MST is definitely very valuable, even though it's a very old card. Yeah, so, and that's it for the spell portion of the side deck, and then we play one Promenade for, if you know you're going first and you side it in. This card is very good. So it actually has a second effect that I didn't mention earlier. You can banish this card from your graveyard and then target one Madolche Xyz monster you control and attach any Madolche monster to that Xyz from your hand deck or graveyard. But realistically, what you want to do is attach a Pudding Cyst to that Xyz so that you can overlay a Chalk Alamode over that Xyz and then go ahead and continue to special summon and build your board up, to push for damage, or push for game, whatever seems appropriate to you. And the thing is, though, we only have one in the main deck, so we don't really want to use that effect from the graveyard until we've sided the second in, because you don't want to get rid of your Promenade. Your first effect of your Promenade is so valuable to you, you just want to keep looping it. But having the second allows you to banish the first one and then keep the second one in deck so you can continue to loop it. So, yeah. And then we play 2 IDP. I want to play 3 of this, but it's a hard once per turn. And if you ever draw 2, then it's just like a dead card, at least for that turn. And the way that the game is, it's so fast right now that any card that you can't activate like this turn is kind of just like a really tough card. You want to be able to interact right now. Otherwise, you'll fall too far behind in card economy, and that's just no bueno in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! 1 red reboot. This card is busted. This card is so good. The thing about this card is, generally speaking, if you can't kill your opponent the turn you resolve this, you don't really want to play this card. But because Madolche can just absolutely OTK like crazy, this card is really good in this deck. Also, yeah, it's at 1, but you can't search it, but you can dig for it with Prosperity. So it's not really that hard to find. Additionally, even if you do resolve a Prosperity to get this and you have to do half damage that turn, that's still fine, because again, they can set their trap. You don't care, because you can just shuffle it back with Tiramisu anyway. You can make 2 Tiramisu and shuffle all their stuff back. So even if they set more traps, you don't care. You just shuffle it back. So this card is really, really good. And again, it's something you can chain as a spell speed 3 to, a Judgment or, any trap that you just don't want to see. And then finally, speaking of Judgment, we play 3 of them. So when you're going, let's say it's game 2 or 3 and you've decided to go first and you put in your Promenade, Promenade is really good because it can blank out an evenly matched. It'll blank out, Harpy's Feather Duster, Dark Ruler No More, anything like that. But if you sided, they probably have more than one removal, more than one card to deal with the board you've established. So the Promenade will usually take care of the first thing, but the Judgment is really good to have set. It just gives you that extra little bit of comfort to know that I've got this spell speed 3 that's not going to cost me any additional card commitment. I just flip it and negate anything that's going to disrupt my board. And if you don't have to use it for something that's going to disrupt your board, you can just stop any monster summon or spell a trap, obviously, but it's just a really good card just to stop anything that's going to disrupt your board and break your board. So it's just good to have that extra little bit of comfort. This was originally 3 copies of Herald of the Orange Light, for if you're going first, you can just play through hand traps. But that card was just really rough in the sense that you have to kind of have a bad hand for it to be good anyway, which means you'd have to open up. So the only fairies you have in your deck are Angeli, Petting Sister, and Pudding Sis. So that means you have to open up 2 starters, and that's not a great hand, and then pitch 1 Andrew Herald of the Orange Light. So that means you don't really have much of a follow-up the following turn. So I'd rather just have a card that I can just set and play out of a corner, more so than a card that's Herald of the Orange Light, which is only good if you're already pretty far ahead and have extra resources to spare. So I feel like this is the correct decision. And I've definitely not regretted having this over Herald of the Orange Light. So yeah, that's the end of my side deck, this is the end of my deck profile. Please, guys, let me know what you think. Let me guys know what you think I'm doing wrong, what I could be doing better, what decisions you agree with, decisions you disagree with. I am more than open to constructive criticism and thoughtful, debate about how the deck should be played. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Maybe you learned something that might be useful to you if you plan on building the same deck. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Peace out.